Welcome to the second part of lesson 4.4. We're going to get into a little bit of harder rational equations in this one, but we're still going to do a very similar process. So the first step that we're going to take on all these problems is getting rid of our denominators, making the denominators go away, bringing it all into one line, because then we can solve for stuff when it's all in one line. So if I look at this, I have a denominator of x plus 2. Like we talked about in the last video, it's dividing. So the way to get rid of division, we learned from junior high, is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by my denominator so that they will cancel out. But what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So I'm going to multiply the other side by that denominator. But you'll notice, hey, look at that. This denominator also just happens to match it. So both the denominators go away in one step. That's pretty nice. So now we're left with x minus 1 equals x squared plus 2x minus 3. Now I need to get everything to one side. So I'm going to minus x to both sides, add 1 to both sides. So I've got an x squared plus x minus 2, all on one side, and that's going to equal 0, because I don't have anything on the other side. Now the reason we got it equal to 0, like we've been doing for many chapters at this point, is once it equals 0, I can factor it, and then just set each of the factors equal to 0 to solve it. So I'm going to very quickly factor this. Hopefully we're getting a little faster at factoring. I need two numbers that multiply to negative 2, add to positive 1. So I should get plus 2 minus 1. And then I'm going to set both of these equal to 0 and solve. So I end up with x equals negative 2 and x equals positive 1. But just like with the last problems in the first video, I still need to do my check step. And I will need to do it for both answers. So I need to do it for x equals negative 2 and x equals 1. Meaning I plug that answer in to my original equation for x. So notice I'm going to my original equation, and anytime I have an x, I'm plugging in negative 2 instead. Now I'm going to start to simplify this. Negative 2 minus 1 is a negative 3. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Negative 2 squared is 4. Negative 2, or positive 2 times negative 2 minus 4 minus 3 should give me a negative 3 over 0. Now, those are the same, but I've run into a problem. Am I ever allowed to divide by 0? Nada. That is not okay. We cannot divide by 0. Cannot divide by 0, which means my negative 2 is one of those fake answers, the extraneous solutions. It doesn't work. So let's try 1. Let's see what we've got. 1 minus 1 on top, 1 plus 2. And I've got 1 squared plus 2 times 1 minus 3, all over 1 plus 2. So if I simplify this, I've got a 0 over 3. And looks like here, 1 plus 2 minus 3, that's also a 0 over 3. Well, I can do 0 divided by things. If you're ever unsure, just type it into your calculator and see. 0 divided by 3 is 0. 0 divided by 3 is 0. Those equal each other, so that works out. So that means x equals 1 is my solution. That one's not fake or extraneous. Okay, let's try this next one. I want you to start this one out. Start by trying to get rid of all the denominators like we did in the first problems. Multiply by those denominators one step at a time to get rid of them. So pause the video, try to multiply by the denominators and get rid of them. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. So I got rid of the 12 denominator first by multiplying everything by 12, and then those 12s cancel out. So this is what I was left with. Next, I decided to get rid of the x minus 3 denominator by multiplying everything by x minus 3. So then those x minus 3's canceled, and this is what I was left with. And then I wanted to get rid of the 48 denominator, so I multiplied everything by 48 so that those 48s would cancel and it stayed balanced. And this is what I ended up with. Okay, I want you to try, once again, try the next step on your own. Multiply all these things together, distribute where you need to, bring everything to one side, and solve for x. Then, don't forget your check step. Ready, set, go. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. So, we got to this point where it's all in one line. I started multiplying things together, so I multiplied all my numbers first. Then I distributed where I needed to. Then I just started combining things, bringing things to one side, and I got x equals 19. If that's not what you got, pause the video now and see where you went wrong. Then I plugged 19 in here, my original equation, and I got to this point and I just typed this one into my calculator to get an answer. Typed that one into my calculator, got an answer, saw that they're the same decimal. So there's my check step. It works. Sweet. Okay, let's do the last example on this page. So once again, I want you to start on your own. Try to multiply all the denominators out so you can get it into one line, no fractions. Pause the video and try that. Check what you got with what I got. Multiplied everything by x plus 1 to get rid of that denominator first. So I got those times by x plus 1. Then multiplied by everything by x plus 4 to get rid of that denominator. And that happened to get rid of the third denominator as well. That's nice. Multiplied that by x plus 4 to keep everything balanced. And this is what I end up with. So, next step, we're going to distribute, multiply everything together, and start to solve. When you multiply all these things together, you're going to get some x squareds, which means it's a quadratic. Anytime you get a quadratic, you want to bring everything to one side so it equals 0. And then once it equals 0, you can do factoring and solving. So I want you to try that next step on your own. Multiply all this together, get it to one side, and factor it so you can get your solutions. Ready, set, go. I should probably look at my answer key before I tell you guys you're going to end up factoring, huh? I totally forgot that in this problem, we ended up with an x squared on each side, but then when you minus x squared to combine your terms, they both canceled out. So this problem is not a quadratic. It ends up being easier than I thought it was. So, there you go. Anyway, so we bring the x's squareds over, they cancel, and then we continue to solve from there. We should get that x equals 0. And now we need to do our check step. So I'm going to plug 0 in for all of my x's and simplify to make sure it works. So this is 0 over 1 plus 3 over 4 equals 3 over 4. 0 divided by 1 is 0. So I end up with that. Checks out. Sweet, that is our answer. Okay, in the next video, we'll do a few more example problems of solving rational functions.